Who is this vampire to you?
He's your king.
It was really interesting shooting that scene. In the script, it's described as a big knockout, drag-out, and everything in the house gets smashed. And, it's really, a major thing, especially because they're both very powerful vampires. Eric especially, he's so old.
These two vampires who would destroy the walls. I mean, everything would truly come down if they really had a fight, are in this sequence, but you can't wreck anything. Every single piece of furniture on the set is a one-of-a-kind piece because, of course, these are all found in, salvage yards to look like they come from that part of the world. It was challenging, and we really had to think about, first of all, the fight de-escalated from where we maybe pictured it originally.
And then there was a decision that was made that, in fact, it wasn't so much about the fight. The fight wasn't that important in terms of the enjoyment of the show and the narrative significance of things.
And it really became more about, the feelings and the emotions of it.
If you ever loved me, you won't hurt him.
In this episode, a lot of people are channeling other people. It's always nice when there's a big contrast between the characters as we know them, and then once they get inhabited by some other persona, they become something completely different. So for the actors, it's a great opportunity. They get to show two completely different things. This was one of the most fun things in the episode for me, I think, was Sam Trammell channeling Tommy. It was interesting beforehand in our discussions about how he was going to do that exactly, because we weren't going to do anything physical to make that happen. It all had to be internal.
Hey, Jimmy! Table 8's got no setups. Come on, this ain't rocket science.
It's a great acting challenge, I think, and Sam was so up to it, and we all enjoyed his performance so much. I mean, every time we did a take, as soon as we'd stop, everybody would burst out laughing because he actually captured Tommy so well.
It was all the way through his body, just to even watch the way he moves or walks, and his walk is one of my favorite things that he's doing. It's so different than Sam Merlot. I could tell that he'd spent a lot of time watching Tommy and sort of working on the voice and the body, and he really stepped up.
There's a scene at towards the end of the episode where Lafayette discovers that he is actually a medium, and it's Don Bartolo who shows him what he really is.
Te demoraste bastante. Pensé que se te olvidó todo lo que te enseñé.
The whole sequence is very interesting, with Jesus getting bitten by a snake and Lafayette having to channel this character Tio Luca, and that's how he ends up being able to cure Jesus. It was a great challenge, I think, for Nelson to take on this completely different persona and to speak Spanish, which is something that he doesn't do, in fact, and he worked really, really, really hard at it. It's really fun I think, to see Lafayette, who was so recognizable in his own way, kind of take on a completely different thing.
We were talking about it, Jeremy Pedeswa and I, and we were saying probably we'll never get the opportunity again to shoot zombie vampire priests on fire. And maybe that's a good thing.
From a production point of view, it's a very big thing, and lots of special effects and visual effects and stunts and all that stuff.
It's very challenging to work with fire. Once you light people on fire, you have about 10 seconds to film, and you can't really do it again. It's all this build-up and preparation for hours and hours and weeks, frankly, of figuring out how you're going to do it, and then it's over in 10 seconds. In terms of the story part, I think the scariest thing we could ever do to vampires is take away their free will. It's terrifying, which is witches are a great threat. They may look like middle-aged women with beaded curtains and, a lot of incense, but they're deadly. For Marnie, this sort of meek woman who's kind of, uncomfortable, deeply uncomfortable in her own skin and with her own purpose in the world, and suddenly she's embodied by this great force. It's, for that character, it's everything she's ever hoped or dreamed of, and I think Fiona's bringing that to the part.
Fiona Shaw is just such an amazing actress. She's really a genius, I think, and it takes very little for her to indicate what's happened to her, and right away that she's possessed by some other spirit, and the way that she carries herself and the small vocal inflections and things that she does, and she's suddenly Antonia.